3 spine-chilling babysitting nightmares revealed, terrifying true stories of sinister secrets. Lucy knew this babysitting gig was too good to be true. Nestled in the sprawling opulence of Maplewood, the Johnsons seemed like the perfect family, charming parents, well-behaved kids. And with her tuition bills piling up, any extra cash felt like a lifeline. But as twilight blanketed the neighborhood, dread seeped into her bones, twisting around her heart like ivy. It started with whispers. Emma and Jack, innocent children, had their own shadowy stories about the last babysitter disappearing without a trace. She went to the do not enter room, they giggled, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. Just kids' imagination, Lucy told herself, shaking off the chill that crawled up her spine. Yet, when the soft sounds of laughter morphed into something darker, she couldn't ignore it. The house exuded an eerie grandeur, lined with antique decor that whispered secrets of a long-forgotten past. The weight of something unseen pressed against her as the sun vanished, leaving only a sliver of twilight through the grand windows, shadows growing reclaiming the space. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As midnight approached, an unsettling crescendo of creaks echoed through the house, each sound a reminder of the creeping sense of danger. The neighbors, who once smiled warmly, now loomed like statues, their vacant gazes tracking her every move with unsettling intensity. She felt pinned beneath their gaze, dread crawling under her skin. And then the whispers came again, giggling, urgent, calling her name. Was it from the kids? Or something lurking beyond? Panic surged within her as a sudden crash reverberated from the upper floor. Her heart raced wildly. This wasn't just a silly story, something was wrong here. The bathroom door wouldn't budge when she tried to lock herself inside. Just then, a cold, clammy voice whispered her name, threading through her thoughts. It wasn't just the children playing their mind games, it felt like the house itself was alive, hungry for secrets. Lucy realized the facade of wealth and charm was cracking, revealing the sinister layers underneath. The forbidden room loomed larger in her mind. She had been drawn into a web spun by more than the Johnsons. There were forces older and darker, lurking in the corners of this deceptively elegant home. Her breath quickened, the walls closing in until she felt dizzy. The shadows danced menacingly in the dim light, and the clock ticked ominously, echoing the rhythm of her racing heart, and then a flicker beyond the window. A figure just out of view. Fear ignited inside her, and with desperation, she darted toward the door. The moment she swung it open, she collided with a familiar face, the one she'd trusted to check on her. But the look in their eyes struck terror into her heart. There was betrayal in that moment, something that made her stomach churn. In a rush of panic, Lucy sprinted into the night, the streets unfamiliar and suffocating as the shadows wrapped around her. She dashed towards the safety of familiarity, but Maplewood had turned into a labyrinth of secrets and deceit. Every house looked the same, the emptiness echoing her fears. The weight of betrayal pressed down harder. Who could she trust now? As she reached for her phone, the chill of impending horror settled over her. Whatever danger awaited her didn't just live in that home, it was embedded in the neighborhood, a terrifying secret waiting to ensnare her. The darkness had teeth, and it was hungry. Lucy stumbled down the dimly lit street, her breath coming in sharp gasps. The crisp air stung her lungs, and each step felt like wading through a thick fog of dread. The shadows stretched ominously, twisting into grotesque shapes that seemed to dance just beyond her periphery. She didn't dare glance back at the Johnsons' house. She could still feel the eyes of betrayal drilling into her back. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, she fumbled for it, praying for a sense of normalcy. But the screen flashed, revealing a dead zone, no signal. Panic gripped her as tightly as the chill in the air. What now? She whispered, shaking with fear. The neighborhood felt alive with malice, each creak of branches, each rustle of leaves whispering promises of unseen terrors. She spotted a streetlight flickering ahead and quickened her pace, desperate for its sanctuary, but as she neared, the light flickered violently, almost in warning. Her heart raced faster in sync with the pulses of light. It felt like the embodiment of her despair, throwing her into an unsettling spotlight. What would she find illuminated before her? Lucy hesitated, uncertainty clawing at her mind. She stepped into the circular glow, scanning the darkness around her, searching for signs of life, for help. Each strained breath rattled in her chest. Was it the weight of the house pressing down on her or the oppressive darkness lurking just beyond the light? Suddenly, a sound broke through the unmistakable laughter of children. It floated through the night pure, innocent, yet laced with something sinister. The same laughter that echoed through the Johnsons' halls. Lucy's stomach dropped. They were still out there, hovering just beyond the reach of light. She strained to listen, ears combing through the chaos of her jumbled thoughts. "Lucy! Come play!" The voices called out, sweet yet chilling. A different part of her, one that was tired, desperate for some semblance of safety, almost wanted to listen. She fought against it, shaking her head fiercely to dispel the creeping sensation of dread curling around her heart. But the laughter grew louder, like a siren, luring her closer into the dark. Turning on her heels, she spotted an alleyway to her right. It was her only option. Clenching her fists, she dashed toward it, her pulse pounding in her ears like a war drum. The narrow alley was cloaked in shadows, the scent of garbage mingling with the sharpness of the night air. It felt wrong, but she had no choice. As she moved deeper into the darkness, the world behind her faded into silence. Her mind raced with thoughts of escape, plans to flee until this nightmare was just a memory. But the further she went, the more suffocating the darkness became. It pressed against her, whispering of the secrets she could not know. A chill seeped into her bones, a sensation that made her skin crawl. Then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. She stopped cold, heart hammering, as a pair of glowing eyes blinked open, reflecting the light from a distant street lamp. Her breath hitched in her throat. What had she wandered into? "Lucy!" The voice lingered in the air, soft yet commanding, oozing with something that sent shivers skittering down her spine. It wasn't Emma or Jack. It was something else, something that wore familiarity like a mask. "Who's there?" she croaked, her voice barely above a whisper. The eyes blinked again, and the laughter erupted around her, echoing from the shadows. It was terrifying, almost mocking. Lucy took a step back, adrenaline flooding her limbs, ready to bolt. But the shadow moved closer, and she felt it wrap around her, chilling her to the core. What had she stumbled upon in this darkened corner of Maplewood? Who or what was waiting for her to discover its secrets? She froze, heart pounding as the shadows whispered her name once more. Would she find the answers she was seeking, or would she be the next intake into the family's ominous history? The darkness closed in, and Lucy knew she had to decide fast. The shadows thickened, merging into a swirling blackness that encased Lucy. Her breath caught in her throat, each heartbeat sounding a frantic drum in her ears. She felt something brush against her ankle, sending a wave of cold creeping up her spine. Turning, she squinted into the inky void, desperate for any sign of what lurked there. "Lucy, play with us." The voice was thick with sugar-coated malice, spiraling around her like smoke. It was no longer just an echo of laughter, it felt alive, pulsating, coaxing her to join. She shook her head, trying to drown it out, but the sound reverberated through her bones. "Stay away from me," she yelled, the plea trembling on her lips. But deep down, a part of her just wanted to yield, to surrender to that familiar allure of childhood games, to feel the warmth of companionship again. As she hesitated, the glowing eyes drew nearer, revealing themselves as those of small figures, children. Their faces were pale, almost translucent, adorned with twisted grins that spread too wide, stretching their lips beyond what seemed natural. There were 3 of them, a girl with tangled hair, a boy clutching a broken doll, and another with eyes too big for his face. Lucy, the girl beckoned again, her smile widening, revealing teeth sharper than starlight. Come play. Fear shot through Lucy, a clear realization breaking the spell tugging at her limbs. These children weren't real. They were remnants, echoes of what had been, speaking from a place soaked in sorrow and darkness. She needed to find her way out. She needed to escape them. Backing away, her shoulders scraped the damp, gritty wall of the alley. She needed to look for an exit, something to pull her out of the nightmare. But with every backward step, the shadows closed in tighter. There was nowhere to run. Suddenly, the voice dropped in tone, turning cold. Why did you leave us, Lucy? It sliced through her resolve, seeping into the cracks of her sanity. I didn't leave anyone. I don't know you. She gasped, her voice steadily losing confidence. The three children's laughter morphed into shrill cackles, filling the alley with a frenzied echo. The shadows thrummed with energy, a palpable force that crumpled her courage. The darkness around her pulsed with life, curling and twisting as if it had a mind of its own. She noticed something, a glimmer on the ground, what looked like a piece of a torn child's drawing. With trembling fingers, she reached down, her heart racing as she picked it up. It was crude, hastily scribbled in crayon, and the edges were tattered and dirt-stained. It showed a house that could only have been the Johnsons' place, a place she had just fled but was now drawn back to. The familiar shape seemed blurred, out of focus, and yet she understood, this was the house but not as it was. It was a place steeped in shadows, where happy memories were twisted. Lucy. The children called again, now a chorus of rasping whispers threading through the night. You belong with us. Forever. Panic surged within her, unleashing raw energy, compelling her to sprint deeper into the alley, her only option now. The laughter chased her, relentless, pounding against her ears. Each step felt heavier, as if the darkness clung to her like an unwanted shroud, but something surged beyond the shadows, beyond the children that mocked her. A flicker of light pulsed at the end of the alley. Was it a way out, a salvation? Or was it another trap luring her back toward the cycle of torment? In that harrowing moment, Lucy had to decide, plunge into the light and risk everything, or confront the darkness that threatened to consume her entire being. The choice loomed like a specter, the shadows closing in, whispering secrets she could not understand. What truly awaited her? Would she uncover the truth or succumb to the darkened apparitions that haunted the corners of her memory? As she hesitated, the laughter crescendoed again, a haunting prelude to whatever lay ahead. Would she find herself face to face with her past, or would she become just another ghost of Maplewood? Lucy's heart raced like a wild horse as she faced the flickering light. It was warm and inviting, yet a part of her screamed it was a trap. The ghostly laughter echoed behind her, filling every inch of her mind with chaos. She could feel the children's south presence close, their twisted figures only inches from her heels, urging her to stop, to turn. She had a choice, but no clarity. Without thinking, Lucy bolted toward the light. Each hurried step felt heavier, like she was wading through the very shadows she fled. The laughter faded slightly, but the darkness behind her swirled with discontent, as if enraged by her defiance. As she neared the light, a door emerged from the void, its surface painted a bright, irresistible shade of yellow. Hope surged within her, almost dizzying. With shaking hands, she grasped the door handle, the cold metal biting into her skin. She hesitated once more, glancing back. The children hovered just beyond reach, their faces a study in malevolence. Lucy, you don't want to leave us. They screeched, the cacophony wrapping around her like thorny vines. She twisted the handle and swung the door open, stumbling into a blinding brightness. The sudden light momentarily blinded her, the world spilling into vibrant colors. But no sooner had she crossed the threshold than the door slammed shut behind her. The echo reverberated like a gunshot, and panic clawed at her throat. Lucy found herself in a dimly lit room, empty save for peeling wallpaper and dust-coated furniture that shambled along the walls. This was not an escape, it was another prison. She took a cautious step inside, breath hitching. The air was thick, pregnant with something unsaid. Welcome back, Lucy, a voice whispered, low and familiar. A chill spread through her body. It was her mother. But this was not her mother's voice. There was a strain, an eerie softness wrapped around it that made her feel terribly alone. "Mom?" she ventured, a tremor threading through her uncertainty. "Is that you?" "It's always me, my love," the voice replied, but it echoed, as if bouncing off sinister walls. Shadows crawled along the corners of the room, dark tendrils creeping toward her. "Where are you?" Lucy called, her voice full of desperation. She felt utterly trapped, the specter of her childhood loom hovering just out of sight. "Play with us," the voice lured again, morphing and merging with the shadows creeping closer, as if they were one. Her heartbeat quickened, pounding desperately against her ribs. Suddenly, the ground felt unsteady beneath her feet, and the room began to twist. The walls closed inward, the furniture contorting into grotesque shapes that leered at her. Lucy stumbled backward, wide-eyed with terror. Just as she thought it couldn't get worse, laughter pierced the air again, infectious and chaotic, as it melded with the voice of her mother. "No! Stay away from me!" Lucy screamed again, fighting against the encroaching wall of darkness. But the shadows lunged, smothering her in a desperate grip, pulling her closer to the source of that terrible, seductive laughter. They wanted her to join them, to be theirs forever. The specters of the past, mixed with the darkness of her present, clawed at her sanity. Somewhere in the chaos of it all, Lucy felt the drawing from before slipping from her hand, lost to the floor as everything collapsed around her. Then, through the maelstrom, something jolted her back to the moment, the memory of falling asleep in her own bed, of dodging the shadows at the Johnson's house. Was this just an extension of her nightmares, or had she crossed into a realm where memories and reality fused in horrific delight? Forcing herself to breathe, discovering that the darkness could not simply be fled, she steeled her will. Perhaps understanding this world would be her only chance. "Who are you?" she demanded, defiance rising like a flame. But the darkness only laughed. It beckoned her deeper into its fold. She could feel it. Something was shifting, and she was on the brink of a revelation she never anticipated. What did the shadows want from her? How far was she willing to delve into the dark to regain what she lost? The shadows pulsated, twisting tighter around her, their whispers butting against her fragile resolve. Lucy's journey had only begun, and she was left wondering if there would be a way out, or if she would become yet another wretched soul caught within the dark's seductive embrace. The darkness pressed in, so thick Lucy felt it wrapping around her throat like ice-cold fingers. The shadows whispered, intertwining her thoughts, corrupting her memories. Each breath seemed to swell her lungs with despair, tightening like a noose. She fought back, every ounce of her will screaming for clarity, for an escape. But the more she resisted, the stronger the shadows pulled, a relentless tide determined to drown her. "Play with us, Lucy," they beckoned again, their voices layered, merging into 1,000 haunting echoes. Images flashed in her mind: children laughing, faces grinning, eyes that shimmered with malice. The twisted figures danced just beyond her perception, a grotesque ballet of shadows. Suddenly, the laughter transitioned. It became high-pitched, spiraling into hysteria. Lucy squeezed her eyes shut, choking back a scream. The darkness swirled and throbbed, and then, from its depths, emerged a small, luminous figure, a child, a girl, hovering inches from her face. "Come play, Lucy," she purred, her voice sweet like poison. "Mommy said you have to stay with us forever." Lucy's heart sank. How could this be? The child's features twisted, morphing into an amalgamation of all those she'd known. Friends, family, even her own younger self. The faces taunted her, whether in sinister joy or mocking sorrow, she couldn't tell. "No. I don't want to," Lucy yelled, struggling again against the shadows that wove tighter around her. "Let me go." The dark laughed, a cacophony of distortion that rattled through her bones. "You came here, didn't you? You chose to leave, to find the light, and now you want to play." The walls of the room seemed to ripple like water. What was once solid twisted and warped, folding in on itself. Lucy steadied her breathing. She knew she had to think clearer. If they wanted her to succumb, if they believed they had the power, maybe she could turn the tables. "Leave me alone," she shouted, voice firm. "You're not my friends. You're all just shadows." For a heartbeat, silence swallowed the chaos. Her declaration hung in the air, a tremor running through the miasma of shadow. But the hush didn't last long. The children erupted in laughter once more, but this time it had a tinge of uncertainty. "Just shadows, Lucy." A voice drawled, smooth and mocking. "We're only shadows, but you're the one about to fade into nothingness." A brilliant flash surged from a dark corner of the room, illuminating grotesque faces, their features twisted and dark, the room alive with movements Lucy could hardly grasp. Panic flared again, she was losing her grip as they lunged for her, reaching, clawing, hungry for her essence, then a flash of silver caught her eye, a glimmer of the drawing she thought lost. It lay on the floor, shimmering in the chaos like a distant star. The moment widened, and in that slice of clarity, Lucy felt a surge of desperation and hope intertwine in her veins. If that drawing could channel something familiar, something real, maybe it could guide her back to what she loved, to who she was. "No!" The shadows shrieked, their tone abruptly shattering into rage. "That's ours. You're ours." She felt the shadows tightening their grip, and time slowed. Each pulse of her heart contrasted with the chaos, but she clenched her jaw, determined. She dove toward the drawing. The shadows lashed out, slapping at her, whipping her with ethereal tendrils as she reached. She could see them now, those anguished faces among the darkness. What had they used to be? Were they victims like her? The instant her fingers grazed the paper, a shockwave rippled through her, sending energy coursing through her body. And then, the darkness recoiled, shrieking as Lucy grasped that connection. What had she awakened? What boundaries had she crossed? Lucy's breathing quickened, her heart racing not just with fear, but with the pulse of something else, something powerful. As the shadows twisted around her, she wondered if she could harness this power to not merely escape, but to confront them. Could she conquer the children's darkness? Or would their desire for her ensnare her for eternity? The laughter echoed again, but now, it was tinged with urgency and desperation, a challenge resonating in the chaos around her. Lucy stood at the brink, and beneath the shadow's pull, she finally sensed a flicker of control beginning to spark within her, but the darkness wasn't done. Would Lucy be able to turn the shadows to light, or did their wretched playtime have a much darker ending in store? The connection sparked in her fingers sent an electric shock coursing through Lucy, igniting a flicker of defiance within the whirlwind of chaos. The drawing pulsed with a warm, golden light, contrasting sharply against the bleak, hungry shadows that lunged at her. "Your art is meaningless!" shrieked the darkness, its voices intertwining in a frenzied chorus. They clawed at her, grasping, their cold fingertips grazing her skin like a bitter wind. Panic rose again. These were no mere shadows. They were something ancient, something twisted. "Stay!" The luminous girl screeched, her form warped and jittery, a flickering flame caught in the wind. "You're not allowed to leave." But the drawing burned hotter in Lucy's grasp, and suddenly she remembered what she had drawn, the joy that had once fueled her. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She pictured her family, friends, all the laughter yet to be had. The shadows grew desperate, thrashing wildly, afraid of the feeling she summoned. Lucy's legs powered her forward as she willed the drawing to project all her love, all her light. A pulse of warmth surged from the paper, an expanding shield, illuminating the darkness with a brilliance that pushed against the grasping fingers. A barrier broke forth, and for a moment, the laughter faded, but it returned, swirling around her in an echoing madness, louder and more frantic than before. "You think you can resist, Lucy?" they chanted, voices scraping her ears. "You're not strong enough to fight us." With the shadows swirling ever closer, Lucy gritted her teeth and planted her feet firmly on the ground. "I am strong enough," She screamed, channeling the energy from the drawing with all the fervor she could muster. The light flickered again, an ember rising to a blaze, and the shadows hesitated, retracting just enough for Lucy to push through. She felt braver now, the tendrils of darkness beginning to burn against the light. Yet the girl was still there, hovering, eyes wide with fury. "You'll regret this," she shrieked, twisting her face into something grotesque, longing to tug Lucy back into the abyss. Lucy charged forward, determined to reach beyond the shadows. The room blurred by, a twisted dimension morphing endlessly, walls crawling and fading. She could hear whispers now, echoing from the void. They were dark, twisted memories, and with each line of escape, they sought to drag her back. "Remember when you were scared in the dark? When you couldn't find your way?" The echoes taunted her, wrapping around her heart, tightening like ropes. "Shut up!" Lucy yelled, forcing her fists tightly around the drawing. "You don't own me." As she ran, the shadows surged, trying to envelop her in their silence. But she pressed onward, driven by the memory of light, each step making the darkness wane. Yet doubt crept in. What if this was just another trick? What if the drawing would only take her deeper into the shadow's grasp? Suddenly, a fierce howl erupted as the shadows lunged forward, a collective strike aimed to pull her back into the void. The drawing slipped from her hands, falling to the ground, the golden light flickering ominously. In that split second, the shadows recoiled, realizing their chance to feast. Lucy reached for it, desperation thrumming in her veins, but the darkness was too powerful. The laughter grew ever louder. It drowned out her thoughts, her screams. She could feel herself slipping, the malevolence creeping in like smoke, suffocating her. Just as she felt herself begin to fade, the drawing brightened one last time, illuminating a way around the shadows. A shimmer of hope pierced through the chaos, guiding her like a beacon. But could she trust it? In that painful moment of indecision, between fear and courage, Lucy hesitated. What would happen if she stepped forward? With shadows closing in around her, Lucy braced herself for a leap into uncertainty, knowing this might be her only chance to escape or be consumed forever. As she leaped towards the light, the echoes of laughter dimmed, leaving her with one haunting question: was she jumping into freedom, or straight into the mouth of darkness? In an instant, Lucy surrendered to the pull of the drawing. The moment her fingers curled around it, the world split open around her. The golden light exploded, washing over her like a wave of molten sunlight, and in that blinding brilliance, she felt the shadows recoiled as a deafening roar echoed through the void, as if the darkness itself screamed in pain. Lucy tasted the salt of her own sweat as she fought against the torrent of shadows, surging forward into the light. The laughter dimmed, replaced by a heavy silence, thick as fog. It was eerie and unsettling, yet oddly comforting. But the calm was a trap. The shadows were gathering again, pooling at the edges, biding their time. They knew she was vulnerable now. The air crackled, a warning that the reprieve would be short-lived. "Do you really think you can escape?" The girl's voice slithered through the darkness like a serpent, clearer now, sharper. "This is just the beginning. You belong here with us." "No!" Lucy shouted, shaking the guilt and fear that wrapped around her like chains. She remembered the faces of her loved ones, their warmth igniting her spirit. She steadied herself, holding the drawing close, feeling its heat pulse along her skin. With a defiance fueled by love and memory, she raised it high. The shadowy realm flared with light, and deeper darkness shrieked in agony. She pressed on, her feet pounding against the unseen floor as she channeled everything she had into the drawing. But the shadows sparked with a new fury. From their depths, figures began to emerge, twisted limbs and hollow eyes consumed by darkness. Faces molded from despair sneered at her with terrifying malice. They reached out, their fingers curling into claws, desperate to grasp onto her flesh. "Let go of her!" shrieked a voice that echoed from deep within the whirlwind. It surged like a tidal wave, sending ripples through the darkness. "You can't take her. She is ours." But Lucy surged ahead, each heartbeat a drum of defiance. The golden light broke through, each flicker amplifying her resolve. Yet, the shadows encroached closer. She felt their icy breath, a suffocating touch that pulled at her mind, whispering her own insecurities and fears back to her. "You're nothing without us," they hissed, slithering deep into her thoughts. "Remember? Alone in your room, trapped by your fears enough." Lucy screamed, clutching the drawing tighter, radiating fearlessness through every inch of her being. "I am not alone." Just then, a flicker ignited behind her, a burst of emerald light. In the depths of the shadows, a figure appeared, her younger self, trembling yet determined, framed by an aura of lost innocence. "You can do it, Lucy. Don't give up." That bittersweet memory wrapped around her, reinvigorating her resolve. She leaped forward again, propelled by the strength of her past. The shadows darkened with rage, howling in chaos, clawing at her heels like a pack of wolves. Lucy's heart raced, each pounding beat shouting for liberation. She couldn't stop now. She had to push past the shadows, past the girl, past every haunting memory. Then, the ground beneath her feet shifted, the golden light flickering. It was a portal, a passage, a gamble against the crushing darkness. With a last surge of strength, she dove forward, thrusting herself through the shimmering veil, and just like that, she was thrust into another world. It was blindingly bright yet filled with a thick, smoky haze that painted everything in twilight. Something terrible lurked close, a low rumble in the air buzzed uneasily. Lucy staggered forward, punching the cloak of fog. But the shadows whispered still, their echoes trailing behind her, dark tendrils reaching, clawing for her freedom. "Welcome to your new nightmare," the girl's voice slithered through the mist, laced with a sinister glee. With her heart hammering in overdrive, Lucy turned slowly, feeling dread creep in. She stood at the edge of a vast chasm, where darkness stared back, waiting patiently. Was this truly a new beginning, or had she merely stepped deeper into the abyss? Behind her, new threat stirred, creeping out of the smog. The worst was still yet to come. The fog thickened, wrapping around Lucy like a suffocating blanket. She could barely breathe as she peered into the chasm. It was not just darkness, it pulsed, alive and hungry. Each heartbeat echoed like thunder in her ears. Terrifying visions danced at the edge of her mind, whispering promises of despair. "Turn back," a voice inside her screamed. But what lay behind? Shadows clawed at her back, and the girl's laughter echoed from within the fog, taunting her. "Join us, Lucy. Don't you see? They can't save you." The word struck deep, causing uncertainty to blossom within her core. She glared into the abyss, fists clenched around the drawing. Its warmth infused her with courage, a flicker of hope amidst her growing dread. "I won't give in," she declared loud enough to chase away the whispers. Behind her, the shadows roared, an angry tide crashing against the voice of defiance. Lucy felt their presence behind her, gusts of icy wind sweeping around her, as though they were preparing to strike. She had to make a choice, confront the harm lurking behind her or gaze into the yawning void that promised something even more sinister. Then, from the chasm, something stirred. A low, guttural growl echoed, reverberating through the air, raising the hair on her arms. The shadows solidified, revealing distorted faces twisted in rage, and grotesque bodies formed from the wretched depths. They were searching for her, drawn to the vibrancy of the drawing as if it were a beacon. Fear sent adrenaline surging through Lucy. She stepped back, narrowing her eyes at the advancing figures. The closer they came, the more the air thickened around her. Their misery and malevolence created a palpable stench that clawed at her throat. "Don't look away," her younger self's voice cut through the noise, a shimmering light amidst the encroaching dark. "You're stronger than them." Fueled by that small flicker of belief, Lucy took a step towards the chasm, her heart hammering like a war drum. She felt tethered by the drawing, as if it were woven into her very soul, tying her to her past and what she might become. Suddenly, a shadow lunged, its clawed fingers reaching for her. Lucy screamed as she ducked and rolled to the side just in time, narrowly avoiding its grasp. She skidded to a halt at the chasm's edge, breathless and trembling, every instinct screaming for her to run. "Lucy!" The girl called again, her voice now dripping with malice, as the other figures began to approach. "Stop fighting. You know who you belong to." The monstrous chorus enveloped her, promising safety and acceptance in exchange for her surrender. Bit by bit, it was becoming tempting, self-preservation versus cowardice. But deep within, the drawing pulsed, reminding her of the light, of her loved ones. In one swift motion, Lucy lifted the drawing high above her head. The colors glimmered against the encroaching darkness, shining like a lighthouse in a storm. The shadows hissed, recoiling as the light seared across their twisted bodies, a painful reminder of their own despair. "No! You can't use that against us!" they shrieked, clawing at the air, the darkness swirling with furious energy. "Then let us see what this can do!" Lucy yelled back, her voice filled with newfound strength. She took a step closer to the edge, summoning all that light within her. Suddenly, the ground shook, a violent tremor that sent ripples across the chasm. Deep below, something massive stirred, a low, echoing growl rising to meet her. A flash of white-hot light erupted from the drawing, consuming everything in its path. Shadows screamed, the sound piercing through the fog. But was it strong enough to silence the darkness? Just then, Lucy felt a cold breath brush against her neck. "Run now," she heard a whisper, barely audible, yet filled with warning. Had the abyss awakened something even more terrifying? Lucy's heart raced as shadows crept closer, the darkness loomed, and the ground beneath her trembled. What lurked beneath would be the ultimate test. Would she fight, or would she perish in the heart of this new nightmare? The light burst forth, bright and blinding, forcing the shadows back. Lucy felt a wave of heat wash over her, momentarily pushing away the icy dread. But it was short-lived. As the light faded, the shadows regrouped, hulking figures seething and coiling like serpents, their faces contorted in silent rage. The air turned heavy again, thick as molasses, and each breath felt like inhaling despair. "Your light can't save you." The voice boomed again, deeper and more resonant, sending chills rippling down her spine. It echoed with a haunting familiarity, as if it were mocking everything she believed in. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet shifted again. A small, jagged crack splintered outward from where she stood, revealing dark, glistening tendrils that writhed like worms. Lucy stumbled back, eyes wide, the essence of dread swallowing her whole. She clutched the drawing like a lifeline, its warmth fading fast. "Help me!" she yelled into the void, but the only reply was the ghastly laughter of the nameless shadows advancing towards her, a cruel melody that cut through the dark stillness. An instinct to run surged through her, but her feet felt anchored to the spot. The shadows lunged, their long, clawed hands poised to seize her, a wave of hatred crashing toward her. She stepped closer to the disgustingly deep chasm. "I want to surrender," she shouted, gripping the drawing tighter, feeling the lines ripple beneath her fingertips. As she did, tiny sparks of color exploded from the surface, illuminating the surrounding dark for fleeting moments, showing her terrified reflections in the twisted faces of the shadows. With one final push of adrenaline, she hurled the drawing into the chasm. It spiraled down, the colors mixing and swirling, igniting beneath the surface. Light spilled back up as if trying to claw its way out, drenching the shadows in vibrancy. But the abyss wasn't done with her yet. With a tremendous roar, the ground rumbled violently, as the shadows screamed and melted away under the onslaught of light. From the depths, a titanic form emerged, coiled and massive, the very embodiment of darkness. Its eyes glinted with malice and hunger, narrowing upon her like the eyes of a predator locked onto its prey. The shadows danced around it, reconstituting, rebirthing in an endless cycle, feeding the beast that had now risen, towering above her with a body as dark as the void itself. It opened its mouth, revealing rows of broken teeth, dripping with the remnants of lost hopes. Panic shot through Lucy, her pulse hammering in her ears. "What are you?" she shouted, desperate to understand what she was facing. But deep down, she felt it, a whispering connection between her and the beast. It knew her fears, her doubts, and her very essence. Your past and your future, it snarled, each word a thunderous vibration that shook her bones. Suddenly, the drawing flickered, the colors dimming as the chasm roared around her, demanding her attention. You have to choose. Her younger self's voice echoed once more, filled with urgency. Fight or submit. The cyclical struggle surged within her, acutely intense, with the creature looming ever closer, thirsting for her surrender. Lucy felt her choices constricting, each pulse of the creature synchronizing with her own, like a dark heartbeat rooted in her core. With one desperate sprint, Lucy lunged toward the edge of the chasm, grasping for the drawing with outstretched fingers. The shadows swirled, a tempest of malevolence ready to engulf her, but could she reclaim the light before the darkness consumed her completely? As her fingers brushed against its surface, a terrifying crack echoed from within the depths. Something ancient stirred to life, and Lucy's world began to tip. Would she still find the courage to battle this new horror, or would she let it swallow her whole? Lucy teetered on the edge of the chasm, a maelstrom of uncertainty swirling around her. The creature loomed, a grotesque embodiment of her darkest fears, every detail hauntingly familiar. You can't escape what you are. It growled, the sound resonating through her very soul. The shadows pulled at her like a weight, an oppressive reminder of the childhood nightmares she thought she'd escaped. Her fingers brushed against the drawing, the warmth pulsing back to life. The vibrant colors flickered in the depths of that all-consuming dark, a beacon in the suffocating terror. She needed to summon every thread of courage she had left. With a deep breath, Lucy steadied herself, chanting silently the names of the people she loved. The faces of her friends and family flashed in her mind, infusing her with strength. You don't control me, she shouted, defiance pouring out like fire as she grasped the drawing and thrust it toward the creature. Light erupted from the paper, overtaking the shadows in brilliant waves. The creature roared, its monstrous figure writhing as the light washed over it. The colors surged, illuminating the chasm's depths, revealing the weight of lost memories that clung to its edges, fragments of her past and the sorrow it held captive. Each burst of light unleashed the laughter of children, but now it wasn't merely taunting, there was sorrow entwined in it, a plea for release. Lucy, help us, a chorus of voices rang out, and it hit her hard. The other children caught in the nightmare, they were trapped just like she was. Anguish clawed at her heart, pushing her to act. I will not let you keep them. Lucy cried, channeling every drop of love and light into the drawing. The colors swelled, radiating away from her like a shockwave, brightening the darkness around her. As she held the drawing high, it glowed with fierce intensity, illuminating her path and banishing the shadows. The creature recoiled, darkness ripping from its form like a blanket torn away. It writhed in agony, then lashed out with terrifying speed, but Lucy stood her ground. You can't take us. She screamed, desperation fueling her confidence. You're just shadows, lies formed by fear. With a newfound sense of purpose, she hurled the drawing into the abyss once more. This time, it didn't merely spiral down. The colors exploded outward, a pyrotechnic display of vibrant light that shattered the dark veil. A rumbling force convulsed beneath her, and the creature howled, fury echoing against the rocky walls of the chasm. Light poured incessantly, scorching away the lingering shadows and unraveling the very fabric of the creature's being. The whispers of children grew clearer, no longer sad, now filled with joy and hope. We're free! They cried, and as they spoke, the dark entity began to dissipate, its power winking like a dying star. Lucy felt a warmth enveloping her, lifting her up. All at once, the shadows scattered, retreating back into the depth of the chasm, unable to withstand the brilliance. With a final throaty scream, the creature was swallowed by the shadows, leaving only a soft echo behind. The light swirled around her, creating a cocoon of warmth, and Lucy closed her eyes, surrendering to it. When she opened them again, she was back in the familiar surroundings of the Johnsons' living room, the grandeur feeling oddly comforting. The clock chimed midnight, and Lucy felt a weight lift from her shoulders. A sense of relief washed over her, suffusing her heart with warmth. She was free. The kids, Emma and Jack, stood nearby, their eyes wide with innocence, devoid of the darkness that had once lingered there. "Lucy!" they chirped, racing toward her with joyous laughter. "Hey, you guys!" She smiled, feeling the ache of fear recede. A quiet sigh of relief escaped her lips. She was safe now, and so were they. "Let us get out of here before the parents come home." As they gathered their things and moved toward the front door, Lucy paused for a moment, casting one last glance at the house. The shadows had been lifted, and the memories that remained were shrouded in light. "Goodbye, Maplewood," she whispered, finally feeling a sense of closure. She stepped outside with Emma and Jack, the fresh night air refreshing, a balm for her soul. The darkness had threatened to consume her, but she had fought back. She had conquered her fears not just for herself, but for the children who had been trapped in that sinister web. As they walked away into the softly lit streets, Lucy felt a renewed sense of purpose. Life was waiting for her, uncharted and bright. New adventures beckoned, and from the depths of darkness, a new dawn had emerged. That if you loved Lucy's story and want more spine-chilling experiences like this, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Hit that like button now to support the channel and fuel our journey into more thrilling tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Lucy's escape. Let's brainstorm together. And remember, it's your chance to spread the word. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this epic conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and be part of our awesome community.